Five, four, three, two, one. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the FrameCast. First off, Xeno, how excited are you for Keanu Reeves or Cyberpunk 2077?
Oh man, I was totally down for getting the game straight away, regardless.
Mm-hmm.
But when I saw that, I was just like, I mean, do you know the Lonely Island?
I'm not quite aware of it.
So Lonely Island is like a music group, and one of their title songs is well, I can't remember it, but the line is, "I jizzed in my pants." It's sort of like a parody rap song. It's really funny, and like honestly, I was just completely taken aback when I saw him well, not only on stage but in the damn game. I was just like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my god.
I mean, it was breathtaking, or you were breathtaking.
No, don't.
Did you see that meme? It's like it turned out so well.
Yep.
But yeah. So today, me and my Scottish fellow right here took the chat. They're saying you're Scottish now.
What? How the hell am I Scottish?
I don't know. I don't know. For some reason, they think you're Scottish. But anyway, so last weekend, Cyberpunk 2077 came out with a pretty great announcement. I saw the trailer, I saw the reveal with Keanu Reeves. It's been a game that's been on my radar for a while, and now I'm like, oh my god, this is pretty damn great. And I've been seeing all over the internet people saying, well, Cyberpunk 77, should you pre-order it? Well, don't. Never pre-order, but it's got Keanu Reeves. Well, pre-order a little. You know, the open the gate, close the gate, open the gate a little meme. And it's kind of gotten us to the interesting question of, is there anything that could be considered good about pre-orders? Should you ever pre-order a game? Because if we've seen over the last year, we've seen some really bad stuff when it came to pre-ordering. And when we're looking at a game like Cyberpunk 2077, can it be in any way disappointing? Or should you just go and pre-order it? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Is that right, Xeno?
I believe that's right, Michelle. You
Yeah.
know.
Sometimes you like to add something. But yeah, so if that is all, yeah, I think that's basically what we're going to be talking about today. So first of all, I'd like to start us off by looking at what is the use case of pre-orders. Why do pre-orders exist? And what is their general use within the gaming industry? And has that changed over time? And what was in the past and what is it now? So it's a big question, but I want to start off with taking a look at what are pre-orders.
Well, yeah, as you say, I think it's like massively evolved over time. Pre-orders used to be a good staple indication of how well a game would do before the game went live, how much interest there was in the game. Now because yeah, sorry, sticking back then. Back then you had the very limited forms of communication that X game was coming out. I remember the PlayStation 2 game, like one of the title games, Zone of the Enders, one of my favorite games ever. The way I learned about that was through a gaming magazine for the PlayStation 2, or for PlayStation themselves. And way back when, into the internet was not the thriving hub of information that it is currently now. Now you can find out stuff left, right, and center about any video game. Back then, you wanted to know how to actually play Final Fantasy VII, you'd actually have to buy like a magazine that had this special little strategy guide with it, right? So I think back then, pre-orders were a clear, solid indication of impending sales and even how much stock a company like a high street company would need to actually have. But with pre-orders now, it's just an incentive to get the money off you now and just give you the middle finger later.
So
Well, it's not just that,
yeah,
but
I was thinking about this because you mentioned stock, and this is what I believe to be the main justification. If I think about pre-orders, what will be the main justification for buying a game or spending money on a game before it's even out, before it even has a playable demo, before it even has a playable state? It's just an announcement. Why would there be in any case a justifiable situation where you would pre-order it? And I think that it definitely comes down to the time when you had to take stock of, like, hey, we need to buy physical copies of the game. And let's say that a game like I remember when the Call of Duties came out on the PlayStation 3, or a GTA 5 would come out, these games would sell out within 24 hours. So if you didn't have it as a physical disc, you couldn't play it. So putting in a pre-order, I think, was your way of securing a copy on the launch day. Like, you would have it, and otherwise you would be uncertain. I think, like, I might be wrong in this, because I kind of entered the gaming, enthusiast gaming sphere when the move to digital started pretty fast. Like, Warframe was one of my main titles where I started out with. So, but I think that is where the pre-order started and had the most justifiable sense.
I kind of agree with you to some regard. I feel that with pre-orders, the it's okay, this might be a bit of a tangent, but it's a bit of a bygone relic, right? So, as I remember, the only way to actually get a collector's edition, actually, you might be able to see them. Like, you see those big boxes there on my shelf?
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are all collector's edition of World of Warcraft. Going from, Burning Crusade, which is the first expansion, all the way up and hidden by the glass cabinet, the latest expansion, which is Battle for Azeroth, right? And the only way to get them was to pre-order them from like a shop, right, a retail shop, and to be there the night of release. Yeah. And that, yeah, I mean, like big collector's editions and things like that, you could only pre-order them, right? And it was more of a not so much, to me, it wasn't a way of getting extra cool crap, because you didn't really get anything truly viable in the collector's edition, but it was a very definitive way to show off your support for the game.
So
Yeah.
So over recent years, have you found yourself with more and more games releases becoming digital, and especially looking back at last year, Anthem, and before that, have you found yourself pre-ordering less? Like, how many games did you pre-order, or didn't you? Or
All right, I have the a fable, a story, narrative,
ooh,
a legend. So yeah, I used to pre-order a lot of games, regardless of what it was. There's one coming to my mind right now, and so I'm just trying to get the. I should tell you a story first, then I'll go look that up,
yeah,
so I can focus on one thing at once. So when I was, this was the straw that broke the camel's back. Destiny 2, right? When I paid probably about £65 for it to get base game itself, plus the first season pass, I was livid. I was so upset and angry, right? I had spent £65 on a game that had about 6 hours worth of. right? The progression was a lie, right? So you know Zale, right?
Yeah.
He was maxed out. He was level 20. I was level 13. I was still leveling up. He could kill an enemy as quickly as I could. And through that logic, you realize that all the leveling did was just show off a what's called a number, a better number, right? It was just, oh, these are better damage numbers. You're doing more damage. Congratulations. You're not. It's just a complete and utter fallacy. You are doing the same amount of damage, right? And it was, yeah, I was upset. The campaign, I completed it in 6 hours. The plot was stupid. The background wasn't there. I didn't know any of these characters. The only one that I could actually get on with was Cade 6 because, you know, he wasn't serious. He wasn't referring to things like, the speaker. Like, speaker. What does your deity say to you now? But what? Who's the speaker? It's like, he says nothing. But who's the speaker? It's like, you know, and there was so much background that you didn't get as a PC player that really ticked me off. And, you know, you saw all these reviews, you saw all these beta tests, and the reviews were coming out before Destiny 2's actual release. And I was like, oh, this looks horrible, right? And I was going to cancel my pre-order, but I bought it on the Blizzard Battle.net client. And you cannot get refunds on that.
Ooh.
I was livid. I was so angry.
I can totally feel your pain in that because I had the exact same story of Anthem. I pre-ordered Anthem on the idea of being able to do the 2 demo weekends and stream then, and because I figured Anthem would be the EA's take on Warframe, where maybe they would have a version of Endgame, which we're going to talk about next week, by the way, if I'm not spoiling it. However,
yeah,
I thought it was going to be a great new source of content. It looked really cool. I heard a lot of people be super excited about it, so I put my money down on it. And it was Anthem. I mean, we all know how Anthem turned out. It was pretty bad, to say the least.
it was a mess.
It really was. So that actually gets me to the question that we're kind of on right now with Destiny was for you the big, like the pre-order that broke the camel's back. For me, it was Anthem. Is there actually, now that there is no physical stock anymore, now that you can't really get, and you can't really be left standing without any physical copies of a game for which you have to like wait until the next delivery comes in because it's always available online, is there any reason to pre-order a game right now? Because basically what we had with Anthem and what you had with Destiny 2 is that if I would have seen what had become of Anthem at the day that it launched, I probably wouldn't have bought it. So, and if I would have wanted to buy it, I could have bought it for pretty much the same price. And I agree with you on the point that I don't really care about all the extra things that come with it, because let's face it, I'm not going to listen to all the soundtracks that you get as digital downloads, or you know, the canvas or leather bag or whatever you're gonna get. It's like, yeah, are you really gonna wear that? Are you really gonna use it? I don't know.
So I just remember that was another one I was gonna actually get up in my list of things gone wrong. So pre-order.
Yeah. Also, I just forgot that I have a camera right here and I have a camera right there. That's Xeno's camera, that's our camera, so I need to be looking there. But I was looking away the entire time because I saw a camera right in front of my face, like, yes, I'm going to talk to you. Oh, shoot, I've not been talking to you. Hi, guys.
Oh, is the stream still up? Because it started to do the pinwheel thing for me.
You got to change the quality.
Is it just the pinwheel?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Right, just making sure, because I don't want anyone to miss anything. Right, so I think people love their material possessions,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, look at my crap, right? I have more Nendoroids, more Japanese toys than the sun. My glass cabinet has, the top shelf alone is just full of Guyver stuff, right? Anyone that knows me knows that the Guyver is my favorite anime of all time. Is what got me into anime, and it's like the most gruesome thing in the universe. And basically when I saw it on when I saw Warframe, the alpha footage, I was just, look, lost, Guyver.
I've heard that from Lost so many times.
Yeah. I've got posters. People love material possessions.
Mm-hmm.
They love to have something, and it kind of strokes their ego and, in a sense, fills a void. Hell, I'm no exception. Look at all my crap. It's just crap. It's just collecting dust. And I'm seeing in chat we've got what you call oh god, someone said Zakimus. I assume that's how you pronounce it. Talking about StarCraft 2. Yep. On the top shelf, I've got all 3 collector's editions of StarCraft 2.
Nice.
I have like loads of collector's editions of all sorts of random crap, and people love to have physical things in their hands to sort of like fill a hole kind of thing. But there is another side to having a physical copy of a game. I don't know if it's too early to tangent.
Well, I kind of want to take what you said with people like having things, and pose a question from. Okay, first of all, have you pre-ordered anything post Destiny 2?
No.
Okay.
No, I refuse to now.
So when you pre-ordered Destiny 2, did you get anything physical with it, or was it a digital download?
Digital download.
So did you get the thing that you're talking about? Because the things in the shelf behind you, they're really great, and it's like people are a sucker for it, and I'm also somewhat of a sucker for like the Warframe statues. When I saw them for the first time, I was like, oh my god, I gotta have that. But yeah, I see it in the background, the next Excalibur. But
I've got a Valkyria in a box just down by my thing. I just never got her out.
Oh my god, I have a Falcon. The Falcon is the only one that I have, but it's just not behind me here. However, if the reason for pre-ordering would be either to make sure that you have it on day one, which with the digital download age is no longer the digital download. With digital, it's no longer a case. And the second thing would be to own a physical thing. Well, I feel that with the pre-orders that I've done, I think that I've done Mass Effect Andromeda and I've done Anthem. With both of them, the only thing that I got was like a digital thing, like a digital tracks. And I was like, I don't really care. And maybe like a Founders Edition thing in the game. I don't really care. So they're not really physical things most of the time. And when they are physical things, look at Fallout 76, they are not always the things that they're made out to be, which people put money down for. So how important, okay, actually, let me rephrase that question. How much importance can we give to the physical things, which I can totally understand your point. People love having physical items, collector's items. However, how much of importance are they to pre-ordering right now when you see that a lot of pre-orders that we just described didn't really have physical things?
Sorry, can you just repeat that last bit?
Okay, so
how important is it to have something digital?
How much importance can we ascribe to collector's items and physical things that you can get from pre-ordering when we see that with the pre-orders that we described, we didn't actually get physical things?
I think it entirely depends on the thing that you pre-order, right?
Mm-hmm.
Though it technically isn't a pre-order, let's look at Warframe's founder program.
Yeah.
I know plenty of people that wear Excalibur Prime as like a badge of honor sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Plenty of people that wear the founder's sigil on their shoulder, again, as a badge of honor. We've gotten that thing, and we've taken pride in the fact that we supported it when we believed in it, right? So that was purely digital, nothing physical about. Oh, actually, no. To be fair, you did get like a physical T-shirt
Yeah.
if you went high enough, and you got a
Mhm.
bandana as well. But regardless of that stuff, like you got purely digital stuff. Now, another big thing, World of Warcraft, they had a lot of purely digital stuff. So we had pets in the game. The pets were just cosmetic. They didn't do anything special, right? There's some people that got the very rare, it's excruciatingly rare collector's edition of vanilla World of Warcraft. I don't have it, right?
Mhm.
There were so few. I think there were only 10 in the UK, right, when it was launched, because they thought no one would want it, right? So very, very, very expensive. And you get like mounts, you get pets, and sometimes it's nice to reflect on that digital thing that you got. But I find that's only valid for games as a service. Games that you will continuously come back to and have years of exposure to, just simply to go around and go, this is awesome. Yeah.
I think this comes back to the talk that was linked to me when we did the first podcast around the Path of Exile death thing, where they talked about items and where they said that in order to have a good item economy, in order for your items to have value, you need to be able to trade them with other players. Because the fact that you have an item that you could trade with someone, but you choose not to, gives that item value. And to kind of like decode that is that, hey, if I get a bunch of Argon in Warframe, it doesn't really matter because I can't give it to you. If I get a bunch of control modules, it doesn't really matter because I can't give it to you. If I get a prime part, I could give it to you. And maybe it's one folded prime part, maybe it's like a very rare prime part, or even a legendary core. Like, these things can sell for a lot. And that means something because, man, I actually let's take an example of like an Oberon Prime part, which you could sell for platinum right now, versus a regular Oberon part. People don't really care about a regular part because you can't sell it for you can only sell it for credits. You can't even give it to someone, so it doesn't have that much value. Whereas a Prime part does, and I think that kind of moves into like the games as a service thing, where the digital pre-orders actually mean something more because the fact that I'm walking around in the same space as you and I have something which you could have had, but you don't, and I have it, makes it mean something to me. Because if I just have a solo game on my PS Vita or my Nintendo DS, or a solo game that no one can ever interact with, then who cares, right? It doesn't actually hold any meaning.
Okay, I'm gonna jump on this.
Yeah.
Right. One. Actually, I'm gonna make notes because otherwise I'm gonna forget. I've already made a note. Right. So. I'm just gonna. Right. Okay. So the first thing, right, is that experience I get. I don't like this experience. So obviously I have the name of the game. Warframe. I have the TennoCon stuff. Thus far, I have every TennoCon digital thing because I've been there every year so far. Right? Awesome. 4th year coming, and we're planning on being there next year as well. Yes, we are that mad.
Yeah.
And
how could you?
Okay. Okay. I'll tell you that story later.
Yeah, well,
how
stick
we're
to
going.
the topic, but yeah.
Right. But the number of times I see a comment on YouTube which is asking, hey, what's that Cyandana? That Cyandana's cool. I want that sign. I feel bad every single time I turn around and say, that's the TennoCon 2017 Cyandana. Sorry, it's exclusive. You can't, it's not coming back to the game. There was some stuff like the Lato Vandal, right? that you only got that if you were in the closed beta. I was only in the closed beta effectively for a day, but I still got it. And I felt bad for having something that no one else has the opportunity of getting, right? But then there is something that sort of struck a chord when you said you're playing a single player game, a PS Vita, who cares, right? About the right. So this is one of the notes I have. Anyone that knows me knows I absolutely love Nier Automata. Right? I'm not going to call it Automata because that's not how you pronounce it. Nier Automata. I love that game. I had so much fun playing it. When I actually have a holiday and have time to myself, I plan on playing through the whole thing again, right? I absolutely love that game. And if I could have bought a collector's edition to support the game further, I would have, right? I don't care if it would just be a dust collector sitting on a shelf or in a box, doing absolutely nothing. But there are some games that, even though a single player experience, you just get nothing but joy for. Another one, while I was stuck, not able to say, a couple of years ago, well, nearly 2 years ago, I ended up moving into where I'm currently now. And I didn't have an internet connection for like 2 weeks. Oh, God. Plains of Eidolon had dropped. I couldn't play it because I had no internet connection. Anyway, so 2 weeks, I had nothing. No internet connection or anything. And I ended up playing Dead Cells for a crazy number of hours. I fell in love with that game. It had improved so much over the year or so that I had owned it, but didn't barely play it. I was just enthralled, captivated by it, to the point of I'm actually going to buy it again for my Switch, right? Just so like I'm supporting the developers again, So sometimes a single player experience can warrant a collector's edition. And I suppose the question is Cyberpunk 2077 one of those single player experiences?
Well, actually, I think that with Cyberpunk 2077, I think we gotta look, instead of just looking at the cosmetics and how much they mean, because that's more like how much would this cosmetic possibly mean to you. So if I were to sell this exclusive item in the future to a single player game, then it's highly likely that less people will care than when it's like, hey, this game will be around for 10 years, and 10 years later, you're still going to have this thing if you buy it now, and other people won't, so you can feel like you're exclusive, and some people are suckers for that, so get it. It might be a bigger sell. I think that that's pretty straightforward in the sense of more people will do it when they can show it off, and less people will do it when they can't really show it off because single-player experience. However, I think that you said something interesting when it came to you would buy the collector's edition for Nier Automata to support the developers. And I think that that is an interesting track to go down to, because even though pre-orders right now no longer mean that you can actually get the game on the launch day itself, instead of like having to guess whether you can get it or not, even though Anthem's release proved to be rather weird. However, basically it means once the game releases, if you decide to buy it on launch day, you can get it and you will have it because it's a digital download and they'll never run out of digital downloads. So you don't have to pre-order for that anymore. And the collector's editions, if things are either like material or not material, you can get it. Like, it's up to you. It doesn't really matter too much, but you can choose whether you want it or not. However, I think we just got to a third point with Warframe, and I think that this is also where something like Excalibur Prime and the Tenacon exclusives are kind of justified in a sense. I think the Founders Program way, way more, because when Warframe launched as a game, they just laid off half their people, and they were down to 44 employees or so. A very small number. They just launched this game, and every single founder that put their money down basically ensured the survival of this game and the studio, and later on the Prime Access came in, but the founders were very, very important for the survival of digital extremes and now Warframe. So there would be a very good place for pre-orders in order to ensure a survival of an independent studio. But does that have a place as well for bigger games like Anthem or like Destiny that have big publishers behind them? Do they need that pre-order too? Like, I don't know how to specify it, but yeah.
My good sir, you have asked a genius question. And I think this often is the sort of like root of all issues, is what happens when publishers get involved. So a similar situation, DLCs, right? I remember the whole premise of a DLC was to allow a company, a developer, to partly finish the game,
Mm-hmm.
then get it over the last hurdle and out the door,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then, you could, download the content later. Yeah.
Mm.
So it wasn't, the idea of DLC wasn't meant to be paid for additional content, right? But greedy publishers, greedy money grubbing, silver spoon eating, I don't know why they're eating silver spoon, a-holes decided that, you know what, we can make more money. So in order to actually get this is what like did my head in. In order to buy the base, oh god, Destiny,
Mm-hmm.
right? Destiny 2 with the first two expansions, with what's the name of the sack of beans? What's called? Forsaken, the most recent update to it. It was like 90 odd pounds, and I'm like, how can you justify this? How can you justify 90 odd pounds for a game that has maybe 12 hours worth of content? Oh, nuts. I accidentally opened my web browser. And now I'm going to sound a little bit garbled. So I personally feel that publishers, though the bane of my existence, they are out to get as much money as they physically can out of the consumer. This is capitalism 101, right? You make a product that someone wants, people will buy it, you get the money, right? Supply and demand. So you make the demand. You artificially create the demand by creating something that people believe to be worth the money, right? Case in point, Anthem.
Mm-hmm.
They showed off the demo of that. God, was it 2013?
Yeah, well, it
2014?
was.
It was a tech demo at E3, right?
Yeah.
And it was gorgeous. It was just like, oh, that looks amazing. It's so cool. And then we get the tripe that we've got now, right? It's just staggering how much people will buy into the hype, right? Now, we're not talking about, hey, look, Warframe Empyrean, yay! Arkwing 2.0, it's great. We're talking about something that no one has got their hands on. No one has had any experience with apart from the developers. It is behind a wall. We trust in DE because we have played Warframe. We have seen what they have done. We have seen where they are going, and we believe that they can get us to a good place, right? But with EA, they've got a lot of egg on their face. Battlefield 5, Battlefront 2, God, Anthem, right? They are what you call striking out hard. I was going to say knocking them out of the park, but that sounded like a good thing.
Yeah.
You know, they are striking out hard. And now they've actually announced Fallen Jedi. I think it's called Fallen Jedi or Fallen Order. I can't remember. The new Star Wars game, single player only.
Ooh.
Have they learnt their lesson?
Who knows? I do want to bring up, because you said that DE justifies whenever they come up with a new thing right now, we know what Warframe is, so we kind of have this track record. However, I think that if we were to be fair to EA and to Anthem and to the likes of Fallout 76 and whatever Destiny, whatever we're talking about when it comes to pre-orders, I do think that Warframe releasing a new update, for which we don't have to pay actually, is not equal to a pre-ordering a game that you've never played. I think that Warframe's equivalent to that would be the Founders Program. Because when you got the Founders Program, you actually had to buy into the closed beta, and you had to put money down for a publisher that didn't have a track record, or not a very well-known track record, for a game that had zero track record and was indie published. So as much, you basically had as much information as you had on Anthem, and it's like, okay, so I just want to say that right now, looking back, it's very easy to say, hey, what Anthem was, what they showed of was way better, it seemed way better than it is right now. It was just a shit fest, and it was bad all along. And Warframe was good all along because it seemed and it got really, really great right now. However, that's with the power of hindsight. When you moved into the Founders Program of Warframe, we didn't know that it would still be around today with 2 open worlds and its own conference, and you don't know that, and that's like the risk you take. And I think, to be fair to Anthem, we do have to take that into consideration. Like, we didn't know that much about Warframe when the Founders Program came around. We didn't know anything when Anthem came around. So the thing that I do want to bring up, because our question is, so what could be good about pre-orders? And I think that aside from the main point of ensuring a copy on the release date, which is no longer the case anymore at this day of digital releases, you could argue for collector's editions, even though I think that people that will go for collector's items will always go for collector's items, even if the game is good or bad, because especially if a game really, really sucks, you still got a rare collector's item. You buy that for the physical item. So then it comes to, I think that the only thing that I can see right now that pre-orders can actually be good for is in a case of point of Warframe, where the studio depends on people putting their money in so that they can continue on developing in the game. I think that right now would be the only thing that I can consider pre-orders to be good for. And that kind of brings up the question is, like, should you then pre-order from a well-known studio or a big publisher? Because they obviously don't have that. And then, wouldn't you be better off just waiting until the game actually releases and you can see what the thing is?
So there's been one thing that neither of us have discussed, which is on my notes, that I want to actually highlight.
Yeah.
Owning a physical copy of a game for a console, right? To me, it carries a lot of weight to own a physical copy of a game because of an experience I had with Xbox Live, right? So I still technically have an Xbox 360. It's in a box in my spare room. It's not coming out. Like, I don't know why I don't just throw it away. But I bought a game on Xbox Live called Scott Pilgrim versus the World, right? It was a side-scrolling fighting game, which it was just awesome. A fighting game or beat 'em up, I don't know what the genre difference is, But it was a side-scrolling fighting game, and it was awesome. I loved it. It was a well thought out game. However, since the Xbox One has come out, Microsoft have updated their EULA, right? They're basically their terms and conditions, right? But I need to, so I can't log into the online website in order to accept terms. I have to do it through my 360. However, I last logged into a friend's Xbox One, right? Years ago. And when I came to log into my Xbox One, I couldn't, because basically I would take the hard drive with me over to my friends because I had, Scott Pilgrim versus the World on there. I would associate the hard drive with that Xbox 360, blah, 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 blah. Now the problem is I cannot sign back into my account unless I take the hard drive, put it in my friend's 360, agree to the updated EULA, and then I can put the hard drive back into my normal 360. And I'm like, fuck this. Like, for all the effort to actually just play one game. So I've taken, like, if I can do it, I would rather buy a physical copy of a game, so Dead Cells for the Switch, Mario plus Rabbids something or another, Mario Odyssey. These are games that I can actually get on Switch download, but I'd rather have physical copies of them, because then at least I can always play them if something screws up, right? And we're talking about Microsoft here. We're not talking a small company. We're talking, and they screwed up royal. And I can't, the game, every digital game I've bought for the 360 is basically lost to me.
Yeah, like,
right?
I can very well understand that, because I'm now getting some games on the consoles, the PS4 and the Xbox One, as digital items, because you get them with PlayStation Plus and Xbox Live, and like you need Xbox Live to play Warframe. So, better get them while they're free. However, you're gonna have them as long as you have those memberships up. And before that, I would always have the physical copies of the games. So if I were to grab my PS2 right now, put in a disc, and I could just play that game as though I bought it new. It doesn't matter what time it is. It doesn't matter whether the service is still live or not. I could just put it in and play it. If I were to take a look at, for example, my iPod Touch, which I got in 2013, I still use that thing to play music because I got this entire docking station. It's a really cool thing. I love the idea of docking stations where you could just like plop the thing in and would like charge at the same time, and you always know where to find it. It's a great thing, but the problem is that if I want to install any apps to it, they're all outdated. And I think that the previous generations of PS3 and Xbox 360 were like the very first introductions to buying digital content on consoles. And now we got a new generation, which is the PS4 and the Xbox One. And my question is, well, how long are these services for the PS4 and Xbox One going to be up? And if they require, like Warframe requires Xbox Live, requires an active Xbox Live membership. If you don't have that, you can't play the game. You can't play it online. You can't do anything with it. You have to wait until, you have that. But what if Xbox were to turn around, which I can understand, and say, well, we're going to quit it for the Xbox One because, let's suppose that it would be the original Super Nintendo, as far as like the Super Nintendo is back in the past to us now. Let's say that the Xbox One would be as far back to us the Super Nintendo is, but then in the future. Then of course, why would Xbox continue to support such an old system when barely anyone plays it? However, you did buy the game, but you can't play it anymore. So I can really see why you were to go with physical copies. And I personally really enjoy having a physical copy because I can also like hand it over to people. It's like, oh, I finished this game. You want to play it? Let's play it. One thing that I wanted to jump in on, because we kind of went to the physical copy thing, is we were talking on the pre-ordering benefit of actually supporting the developers and making sure that the studio survives until their release versus publishers that already ensure their
Milking it.
yeah. So I saw something in chat where they mentioned something about an ARG in the Cyberpunk 2077 trailer, which I did not know about, but let me
Yeah.
see. Let's see. Have you guys seen the ARG thing from their trailer that led to more stuff for fans? If you follow the codes from their keynote trailer, they have a text file that basically says, hey, pre-order if you want to support us, the developers, but if you don't want the pre-orders, by all means wait for the reviews, more information, and make up your mind when you're more informed. How do you feel about that?
That's pretty damn awesome, especially coming from CD Projekt Red. Actually, it's nice that it's coming from CD Projekt Red. That's what I mean. It's like, it's not like CD Projekt Red have done anything diabolical in the past. One of the big things that one of our biggest problems as a culture is we have sort of like insatiable greed, right? We always want to buy new things. We always want to buy the latest. It's really interesting. Since I got into content creation, my purchasing, my buying of just random stuff has actually decreased, right? Like, you could ask Loz, I would buy insane numbers of models and things, manga. I've cut a lot of it back. On the other corner of my apartment, I have two bookshelves, bookcases rather, just completely filled with DVDs. But I've just stopped, right? Since becoming like a proper content creator, wanting to do all this content creation stuff, that has really filled the void in my core. Does that make weird sense at all?
I can understand it.
Yeah.
I kind of want to pitch him with this thing because I was just thinking. I think we're kind of on the wrong track. Um, Allow me to explain, because
Sure.
we're talking about you were talking about people have this. I think you were gonna go with people have this great to like have things, have like these exclusive items, and have like this like they want to pre-orders to have it before anyone else, and publishers want to have these pre-orders to
Boost sales.
boost sales before it comes out without having to show anything. But I'm just thinking we were kind of going on the tangent of, hey, it seems to be all right. A good thing about pre-ordering could be to support a studio that's independent, like Warframe or like
Right.
CG Project Red, but not publishers, because publishers have the money. I think that there is a bias flaw in that, because what would make like I'm kind of like, if the size of the studio or the size of the publishing thing would decide whether a pre-order was right or not, then that is a very arbitrary thing. And like, who is to say whether a studio is big or small enough to like be a good pre-order? And
I don't.
hold on. So going along the tangent of that, it's like, should we or should people pre-order in order to prevent, for lack of a better term, stupid business decisions, in the sense of, if Warframe or CG Projekt Red as independent studios were to release their game but couldn't survive without pre-orders until their game was actually out, then isn't that on them for being incapable of like not calculating that in the right time? It's like, are we responsible for having that studio survive without actually knowing what their product is? And I don't think that is the case. I think that a pre-order is rather a risk, a high risk, high return, high risk, high return option presented to early buyers, the early investors. That if you want to enter in this unknown thing, then then you have this very high risk. Like, you're gonna enter into something you don't know, but if it's good, you can get the high return of having exclusive things and special things, and back in the day, like, ensured access of this game that might be good or might be not good, but it's your choice and you're stepping in it, and it's kind of like this wager. And some people will do it because they love to go for the wagers, and some people won't. And most of the times, what you see when it comes to creative projects, everything will have that point in time where it's this wager of high risk, high return. You'll see that with, let's say, and like, I'm trying, like let me illustrate this a little bit more. You'll see that with YouTube channels. If you were to start a YouTube channel, why would anyone subscribe to you? Because, like, they could subscribe to you, but if you have 0 subscribers, then they don't know whether your content will be good. So they could subscribe to you and watch your content, but if your content's not good, then, you know, why the hell would they? Then they just wasted their time on, like, this premise that your content might have been good. It's a little bit weird of a metaphor, but I'm trying to, like, get like illustrate a thing from the other side, from, like, a different point of view, because I think it's not so much on pre-orders should be there so that we as buyers can support a game company that otherwise might not survive, even though that's like a really great heroic story that we can make up for ourselves. And if publishers can survive themselves and they shouldn't do pre-orders, it's like, I don't think that that's necessarily the case. I think it's rather a high risk, high return thing posed to early investors if they want to do it. And I think that the high return back in the day was higher because you were sure of the game and you would always get, like, a physical copy of the game. Now you get less for it, but that is your choice. Do you like, does it make sense?
I see so much of what you're saying, and dude, you are freaking there, right? Okay. So one of the okay, so I've just seen that Omega Weapon has turned around and said, like, you know, they didn't get it. So let me paraphrase.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So effectively, you are saying that the ownership of pre-orders shouldn't be on the consumer, right? A consumer shouldn't be forced to buy a pre-order to save a game. Say, oh god, was it Hellraiser? Sire's Vigil? I can't remember what the name of the game was. It was done. Yeah, it was like a really big indie game. Did really well and everything. So, you know, they didn't have to. You as a consumer do not have to pre-order anything, right? You can always wait for reviews. You are not held responsible for making sure that a studio survives. It's up to them to make sure that they survive, right? Sometimes it's a case of getting in bed with a publisher. In other times, it's just, you know, you manage to pull off a CD Projekt Red or Digital Extremes or what have you. Other times, it's a case of you're a sinking ship, right? I do like the idea of supporting smaller studios over larger ones. Sorry, was there anything else I missed out from what you said? This was just me paraphrasing.
I think that you kind of like you shortened it down a lot, like very well. And I think that it's not necessarily pre-ordering. We've been approaching it with the only good thing about pre-orders is the supporting a studio like Digital Extremes or CD Projekt Red that might otherwise go down. I think that should not be if we're discussing whether there could be something good about pre-orders or not. I don't think that should be our approach, because that is not, you should not, like, people would and people probably will, but you should not go out and pre-order things to ensure the survival of a studio, because they are a third party entity. You are not responsible for the survival of a game studio.
Yes.
Because even if you might feel that, and I feel that with Digital Extremes, where people are like, oh my god, I want to support DE because they're my friends. And it's like, they're great people, but they're not your friends. They're just a studio. They're just developers. And like yes, they might be really friendly people if you meet them, and they're great people, but I do want to make a distinction between friends, is that if I'm in a friendship with you, then if you're doing bad, I'll support you, and I'm hoping that if it's a good friendship, then if I'm doing bad, you'll support me. We both want the best possible potential out of each other. However, in a relationship with you and a studio, and you and a developer, that's not the case. If you buy into a pre-order with the good thing about this pre-order is that I can help this studio survive, even if I don't order the game, I just want their studio to survive. Like, that's great on you, but don't see that as a sign of friendship, because if you're in troubled financial times, the studio won't turn around and say, "Oh,
Yeah.
we'll invest in you." That's not the way you should look at it. That's not the approach we should take if we want to like have an objective approach towards pre-orders. I think it's something that people love to imagine, like, "Oh my god, I helped DE survive," which you did. But like, I think if you look in pre-orders in general, it's this high risk, high return thing. If you want to risk putting money into something that has no promise yet, that has no guarantee, you put your money down, what you're going to get is more than people are going to get later on down the line if it turns out to be good. And it's your choice. If you want to get all the exclusive collector's items or get it at a lower price or be insured of a copy on launch, then that's on you. But there is a risk to it, and that's what you're paying for, and that's a pre-order. So
Yes.
what could be
And
good? Yeah, go ahead.
so I think really we are kind of boiling it down to there's nothing good about a pre-order, right? So one of the big things about the internet these days is you can get a review in your hands like that. You know, you can find it. There was an embargo on, God, what was the name of the game? Warner Brothers. God, Total Biscuit wouldn't review it because there was an embargo on it. Shadows of War.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Shadows of Mordor. Shadows of Mordor. That was the one. It's the first one. It was the first one. And and basically, Warner Brothers had put out, they gave out all these review copies of the game. They paid people to actually endorse the game and things. They could only play one aspect of the game, couldn't play another one, and they were only allowed to say positive things. They weren't allowed to say anything negative about the game, right? So, well, how do you get a unbiased opinion on that? How can you get someone's true
You
experience
don't.
if you're not allowed to say? Yeah, you can't,
You
right?
can't. Like that's super shitty. That's just you're
And
basically taking these reviewers and you're just asking them to be free marketing for you.
exactly, you are taking someone's trust in a reviewer and you are twisting it, you are corrupting it just so you could benefit from it, right? There's I kind of want to name and shame someone. I won't. I'll tell you my experience though, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there was a reviewer that I followed hell of a lot, very closely. Loz followed them as well. We discovered them, and their reviews were impeccable. They were very well crafted. They were very on the nose. They were very honest. They were very genuine. They had their pros, their cons. So when they were doing the reviews, they had their pros and their cons. And then they did a review for an expansion to a game, which may have been the straw that broke the camel's back.
Mm.
And they did nothing but praise the game for a solid 50 minutes, and then for the last 5 minutes said, "Oh, but this bit's bad." Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, and to me and Loz, we turn around, we just say, that's just paid for. That's a paid for advertisement to the game to try and convince people that are the followers of that reviewer to buy the game. And since then, right? We have spotted, like, we've followed them for like a little bit longer, and we spotted more. This is a genuine review. This is clearly paid advertising, right? We saw it more and more, and we were just like, we're done, and we have completely switched off from them entirely, right? We know that they're a big reviewer, they're big, and this is one thing that truly I felt was amazing about Total Biscuit and Jim Sterling, Jimquisition. They will not compromise on their morals for money, right? And you were saying, like, what about the whole pre-ordering, things like that? And part of me thought to myself, well, I have a Patreon. This isn't a shameless plug, right? I have a Patreon.
Patreon.com/Xenogelion. Go support him right now.
It wasn't a shameless plug.
No, it is.
Why? Damn you. Right. But why should people that are, like, watching, listening, or whatever, come support me? Well, I think the big thing, the big difference, and this is the same avenue as Warframe, is that I've put my, I've put my content first. I make the content, and then you have the option to support me, right? You don't have to. I'd love it if you did, but I'm not hyping it up. Oh, if you don't pay £5 to me before the 11th of June, I won't do next week's 10 o'clock. Not doing that. And that has, in a sense, what pre-ordering has become. If you don't pre-order, you won't get the golden bow in Assassin's Creed Origins. If you don't pre-order, you won't get the rainbow shades in Deus Ex Human Revolution. If you don't pre-order, you won't get the canvas bag for the helmet of Fallout 76. Well, it turns out you didn't get that anyway.
I think that that you need to make a clear distinction between things that you get, because I don't know how crucial items these things are.
What I mean is that because people, I really went on a tangent, didn't I? Sorry. My point is, we have reviewers like Total Biscuit, like Jim Sterling, can just shit on a game and just go, this is just, it is just a pile of garbage, right? And that will instantly influence so many people not to buy the game, right? So what can a publisher do to incentivize you to not listen to Jim, not wait for Jim Sterling to shit on Anthem, to not wait for, well, rest in peace, Total Biscuit to shit on Shadows of Mordor, right? They incentivize you to not wait and pre-order with pre-order exclusive MacGuffins. Well, actually, no. MacGuffin implies it's useful. Samoflanges.
Okay, so I do want to jump in on that, because you gave some references to games that I didn't play, so I didn't know whether they were crucial game items. I do think that if the pre-order has exclusive items that are by far leagues way better than anything else in the game, there is a problem. If they're like crucial quest items that you can't get, there is a problem. However, I think that having extra things like side fluff things or collectors exclusive things is what a pre-order should have, because basically, if I'm a developer, I basically, like, I set out this deal, which is a pre-order, and I say, hey, we don't have the game finished yet, but if you want to invest in the game, if you want to put your money down right now, with the very high risk that you don't get, that you don't know anything about the game yet, then if you want to do that now, then we'll give you something more. And, like, I think, see, it's, Omega Weapon said no pre-orders anymore, because what are you gonna get? And exclude like an insured digital copy. And I think that back in the day, like the physical copy was the perfect thing where people were like, if you want to get this physical copy of the game that you don't know, but you can pay down, you can put down some money right now and you can get it. I think that a lower price for a game would be a great thing. It's like, hey, you can put down $50 right now. The game will be $70. You don't know what it's going to be, but if you're willing to invest $50 right now, you will have it with 20 bucks of when it comes out. But that's your risk. And there's a lot of these risks involved in life, and some people will take and some people won't, and you don't have to take that risk. Where like and I think that if I have to be honest, like you started off the tangent with there is nothing good about pre-orders. I think that unless the pre-order is about as expensive or even more expensive than the actual game on release, if the pre-order doesn't come with anything other than what people are getting when they're buying it on day one, then there aren't any other returns, then there is no justification for making the risk of a pre-order. Then I don't think that there is anything good in it. But I do think that if there are justifiable things as like a lower price or higher returns, if there are higher returns if you invest early, then I think that that's a good thing of a pre-order. You don't have to take that pre-order. But let me take this example of for 7 years, Mr. Beast was making videos on YouTube. And after 7 years, he had about 7,000 subscribers. Right now, he's got into the 19 million subscribers or whatever. He's approaching 20 million. If you subscribe to Mr. Beast on the second year of YouTube when he had like about 1,000 subscribers, or maybe not even more than that, like you could have done that, but who knows whether he's gonna grow out to this big channel? You know, that's something that you can choose to. Like, you can choose to subscribe to that channel. If your thing is that you want to subscribe to big channels, because I know there are people that are like, oh my god, I wish that I would have subscribed to PewDiePie when he just started his channel. Because if you subscribe, and this is where I went with the the thing with YouTube, is like, if I subscribe as the very first subscriber on your channel and I say hi to you, the chances that like I can actually talk to you are way higher. But I don't know whether you're gonna grow to be the biggest YouTuber on the platform. And if that's what you're after, like knowing or having some relation with the biggest YouTuber on the platform, it's a high risk, high return thing. Because if you were one of the first subscribers to a channel, and mostly like I know all the people in the chat, most of the people in the chat, especially the people that have been with me since the start of my Twitch channel, like. If I were to ever have a stream like PewDiePie or Ninja where I would have over 200,000 people in chat, if I were to see someone like Savlon Tribal or Omega Weapon or Jen or whoever, I'd be like, hey, how's it going? How's it been? You know? And that's something you only get if you were there first. But you have this high risk because you don't know. And you don't know whether the content will be good. And you don't know whether this person will grow big. And like the same with your Patreons, like, all right, well, I've seen your content, so maybe I like your content. I can put down $5, but I don't know. Maybe tomorrow you'll just be like, I don't care. I'll screw YouTube. I'm done. Or tomorrow you're like your internet blows out and you discover something new in life and you quit, which you can do. But like if you do put down the $5, then maybe you'll be featured in an episode of 10 o'clock, which is a higher return. But it's your choice. And I think that with pre-orders, that's the same thing. But go ahead. Could
you stop shameless plugging my Patreon, please? It's not what we're doing this for.
No, but I think it's a great example because no one is forcing people to pre-order. And I think that is something to keep in mind. And I think that like the pre-order is a high risk, high return thing. And I think that a Patreon is something like that because being featured in an episode of Arbiters or 10 o'clock is a pretty high return if I'm the craziest fan of you and I'm just watching you in like regularly. Then being featured in one of your pieces of content is like a super high return thing. Like, could you imagine if you're like the craziest fan of PewDiePie right now that you could do like a video with him? It's like, wow, dude.
Oh no, look, perfect example, Game Grumps, right? Like if they were to turn around and just like, and this YouTube channel, Xeno G Lion, right? This weird British man will now have the opportunity to come to LA and record an episode of Game Grumps with us. I were like, right, I need to sell all my stuff so I can fly to LA. Right? I'd be down on that like nuts. And I think the big
However, when the Game Grumps started, like they started at a point where they had a channel which was smaller than yours. Like they had a point where the channel that you have right now, they would have been like, "Oh my god, if they started right now, like and you had this channel with 13,000 subscribers and you would have been like, "Come on my show." Then, they would have been like that. And it's like, you could have done that, but you don't know where they're going to. That's a high risk, high return thing. And that's what pre-orders are. But yeah, go ahead.
So one thing I really want to highlight is that as we are both circling around this pond, we are really honing in on the fact that it's down to trust of the actual individual. So this is something I really, really want to highlight and this is me dumping on Blizzard. I used to love Blizzard Entertainment. Oh my god, the days I would just love playing World of Warcraft. I wasted so much time on World of Warcraft, like really getting into the plot. I've read a few of the books. I've not read all the books. I've what's it called? Collector's editions. Come on, that pretty much explains the whole thing, right? But the big thing that really shows to me that the Blizzard I used to love and care about has really corrupted and twisted into something that isn't what it used to be. Is this link? So I've just linked it to you. Is this 15th anniversary collector's edition of World of Warcraft, right? And basically, for their 10th anniversary, they sent out these statues of some of the characters. So one of the characters was this orc on like a wolf, and it was bronzed, much like this statue of Ragnaros is. But they only sent it to anyone that had subscribed from day one until the 10th anniversary. So if you never broke your subscription, cool. But now they've changed it. And it's a case of you buy the 15th anniversary collector's edition, right? What this gets you is 2 in-game mounts, which, by the way, will become available within the game earlier than the 15th anniversary, right? It'll get you a month of playtime, a mouse mat, some fine art prints, a pin badge, which looks pretty damn awful, and a statue, which, again, doesn't look the best. Yeah? All for 100 euros. There was one thing I never said in there. Do you know what it was?
No.
It doesn't give you the game.
All right, that is
right? It doesn't give you the latest expansion of the game. It doesn't give you so you have to download the game separately. You buy this, you get 30 days of playtime, right? But it's like, what the freaking hell? So you still have to buy the base game separately, right? What the fuck? That just, like, at least bundle the latest expansion of the game with this. It's just like,
okay, so
a giant middle finger.
See, this might be an entirely different topic, but let me try and come up with the narrowest approach that I can come up with, because the thing is, or the way that I feel about it, is that these items, so something like this, I can understand that you're like, hey, it's not really the best thing you could have offered. The game isn't even in there. And it's not, it wasn't like back in the day where if you supported them, you got it. Now you can actually go and buy it, and like it doesn't have this loyalty system behind it. However, as a matter of fact, they're out of stock. They did do it really, really well. So the question that I have is like, I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it, but it kind of comes down to, if DE decides to rework things, take out raids out of the game, or decides to take a different approach to their game, or sell something, it's their choice. And I think that we can be worried about, well, hey, this is not really the most ethical way to do it. It's not the most respectful way towards your veterans, or towards your long-term players, or towards the people that buy it. And I think that, especially when we kind of touched on that with the reviewers that you thought were bought out, where it was like, okay, well, they're kind of like being paid to do this review, and they're kind of sacrificing the trust that people have within them for the money that they get for their sponsorship. And then I'm like, well, isn't that their problem? I'm really shortening it down, but it's like, it's their choice as to what they want to sell, and it's your choice as to what you want to buy. Yes, it's a dick move, and it really pisses off like a lot of the community, like what we saw with Warframe and the login system, and Warframe and the taking the raids out. But I think there are also calculated risks where it comes to how much can I sacrifice the trust that, or like the feelings of one part of the community towards what we want to sell. And obviously, if you look at this, yes, there's no game in it, but enough people thought that they didn't care about having a game bundled in or not, because they bought it. It's out of stock right now, and seeing that's out of stock, it was successful. And yes, it kind of sucks that, you know, it's not what you'd like, but it's what other people liked. Apparently, they bought it, and the game is happy. And it's like, yeah, it sucks, but is it really a problem what another person does? And I'm like, you cannot be happy about it. Sure, I'm not happy about with things that DE does, but if this is their choice as to what they want to do, it's their company. And yes, like I actually, oh yeah, actually, this is the thing. This is what we're seeing with the live service games tonight. What we're feeling invested so much into, like, I can imagine you're super invested within World of Warcraft. I feel super invested within Warframe. However, these games are not ours. We have like invested into it, but only as customers. And whatever the game does, and if the game decides to go and commit Sudoku on itself because of like bad business practices, it's their choice. It's their game, and they can do whatever they want. And yes, we can voice concerns, but it's their choice as to whether they want to listen to those concerns. And if you want to be successful as a YouTuber, as anything, I think that the most important thing is to be honest and like always and deal with the truth. And when it comes to dealing with your community, if you're gonna sell things, collector's editions, and like you're bundling this and you're not adding the game because we can get more money out of them, it's kind of like a dick move, and people will catch on to that. And if you do that more and more, then people catch on to that, and that will be bad for you. So yeah.
I agree. And in all honesty, this is a huge drive to why I'm not playing World of Warcraft nearly as much as I used to. Right? I used to play World of Warcraft like a crazy man. I used to read all the quests. I used to I really got into World of Warcraft, right? But it was three expansions ago. They really phoned it in, right? Like barely any of the elements that they had actually advertised. Yeah, we're gonna bring in bases. You can set up your own base, and then you can go off and take your base wherever you want to go. Like, never happened. There were so many features that never happened, to the point of the last patch to the expansion had no content. It had a raid in it, and that was it. And it's just like, what the bleeding F have you been doing? Right? There was nothing tangible about it. The next expansion, Legion, came out, and it was great. It was awesome, right? The latest one, Battle for Azeroth, I don't think there is a single Horde player I know that likes where the plot is going. Like I'm a Horde player. Everyone I know bloody hates the plot. It's like you're phoning it in worse than 3 expansions ago. What are you doing? And we've lost one of the creative directors at Blizzard, Chris Metzen.
Mm-hmm.
We've lost the president of Blizzard, Mike Morhaime. We've lost the chief game director for. I'm making up titles. I know he is the president of Blizzard, but we've lost the guy that basically created Hearthstone, Ben Browder, right? There are rumors that there is such a low morale within Blizzard that there are mass people walking out, sort of like, just quit, just hate this job. And Activision are actively paying them lower than the average wage because it's Blizzard. It's the place to work. No, if it's the place to work, everyone should be happy. Everyone should be paid what they are deserving, right? And this is like the publisher. I don't know. I want to say something like old god thing that's slowly worming its way into publishers. Look at BioWare, right? BioWare is a former shell of what it used to be. Bungie had to sever ties with Activision just to be able to survive, right? Mm-hmm. Lionhead Studios got completely and utterly crushed by Microsoft after Peter Molyneux left, right? Oh my god, EA is just synonymous with crushing studio after Westwood Studios. So you may be too young for them. They did the original Command and Conquer, right? They did the original Dune 2 game, right? Which, again, an RTS. Command and Conquer Tiberian Sun, Command and Conquer Red Alert. Like, they used to do like these really big, amazing RTSs. And then I think, EA just crushed them, right? Then there was I don't know who the dev team was, I can't remember. That there was the dev team that made Medal of Honor, right? And they were pushed around by EA like, oh, just make another one, just make another one, just make another one. And they decided, we've had enough. They quit EA, they quit working for this development studio, and they made another company to go work with Activision. And they made Call of Duty. And Call of Duty was brilliant. Call of 2, awesome. Call of Duty 3, I'm pretty sure it was console only, so I never got to play it. Call of Duty 4, what? Right, and that's when they started Modern Warfare, and they started releasing Call of Duty every year, right? And that is when the same company, all these developers, turned around and went, sod working for Activision, we're going to go work for EA again and make Battlefield games. And it's every publisher seems to be pure poison to game developers just so that they can twist and market their games for getting as maximum profit as possible.
All right, allow me to play devil's advocate in this, because I can understand your point of view, and I can understand, like, I see this too, and I'm not gonna proclaim that EA is the best game developer and overall of the best game publisher. And I'm like honestly, as I said, there are companies, and I know by now very well, and I think a lot of people know that, like, it's this meme that don't buy from EA because EA is greedy and they just want money. But it's like, you play with that. That's your decision. If I want to go and put ads every single 5 minutes in this podcast. So guys, now let's move on to the next sponsor, Xeno's Patreon. No, it's then people will tune out, and it's like it's your decision as to whether you want to do that or not. And if you make bad decisions, you're gonna get the fire for it. And like I've never really seen anyone get away with making bad decisions, so they'll have that turn against them. But let me kind of like put a devil's advocate towards the point that you were making, where the publishers are kind of like screwing this up, where the developers come up with this great new idea, and it works really well, and then they want to like release it every year, and crunch comes in, and then it goes to shit. So, all right. So when it comes to creativity is kind of on this psychological scale of like openness. So how open are you to new ideas? I mean, most of the time you have like there's a lot of like two different sides of what you can be, and like extroverts, introverts, and all those kind of things. So you can be on a scale in between, but most of the time you have people that are very open, and on the opposite hand you have people that are not open. And very open people are always open to new experiences. They want to have they always want to like see if you can learn from new people, learn from going to new places. And more closed people, they stick more to tradition, and they stick more to the things that they know. And there are arguments to be made for both sides of the coin, because if you always stick to your traditions and you always stick to the things that you know, you'll never learn something new. And because over time everything will deteriorate, you will deteriorate with it. So you gotta learn new things to adapt. However, if you're too open and you reject tradition has been built up over years and years and years, and it's so much older than you. There's so much wisdom in the tradition that if you reject that, you will never be able to survive. If everything around you is just a chaos of creativity, because that's basically what like creating new ideas and finding new things is. It's encountering chaos, encountering like this unknown world, which could have positive things in it, but also has a lot of danger in it. So encountering these new things, being open to things, is really, really good for creating new ideas, and sticking to tradition is really, really good for making sure that the status quo kind of stays the same, just to like simplify it. So you also see that in people. You have people that are really creative, and I think that if you look at the creativity scale, okay, so this is a really interesting thing. If you look at, and a lot of times you will hear that everyone is creative. Everyone is creative in their own right, and don't worry about it, you're creative. And actually, you're not. Not everyone is creative. Actually, the amount of people that is creative is, it's this Pareto curve, where it's like only like 10% of the people do 90% of the creativity. It's like there have been studies where like people were looking at what kind of achievements have you done on a creative level. So did you draw or paint something, and was that, did you make a painting, and did you publish that, and was that reviewed, and it's like they made different steps as to like what kind of things you did. Do you have any talent in it? Do you have practice it? Have you practiced it once in a while? Do you practice it on a regular basis? Has it been published? Has it been reviewed by a national reviewer? And is it like well respected? And they did that for like every single mode of creative thing that you can think of. And most people score 0 on that. Most people, like if you score it from like 0 in I have no talent or recognize anything in no practice or recognize talent in it, is 0, and like being at the top of it is like a 10. Most people score 0 on the entire scale. However, the people that score higher tend to score higher across all the ways of creativity. And you might have noticed that with content creation, is that if you create content, then you're most likely, like if you start out with making podcasts or like making reviews, you might try your hand in machinima, and you might do some voice acting with it, and you might do some animation with it, and you might pick up a song. You see that YouTubers are singing now, and you go into all these different things of creation, because most likely you're a very open and creative person, which you might consider to be a good thing. However, I'm not arguing that being creative is a good thing. However, because this is the downside of being creative, is that being creative means that you're very open, and being very open means that you're not really a person that works well with the traditions. You're always looking for new ways. And as much as good as that is, if you're constantly trying to innovate and constantly trying to look for new things and encountering the chaos and trying out new ideas and coming up with them, a lot of them won't be good. And if you're constantly changing things up, and if you're publishing a game or doing anything at all, if you're constantly changing things up, you can't sustain yourself. So what you need to do, and what you see with most creative practices, and this is why a lot of creative people will come up with an idea but will not be the ones to reap the benefits of it, is they'll come up with something really creative, which is really, really tough if that works, because either you're not creative enough and someone else has come up with it, or you're too creative and no one understands it. So you need to be on that right middle line of being creative enough that's a new idea that no one has thought of. However, everyone understands it. Like, that's a really tough thing to be on. However, then you also need to be able to like bring it to the masses, bring it to the people that are interested in it. In order to produce that, you need people that know how to do things and know how to do things repeatedly and know how to do it with tradition. And that's where a publisher comes in. A publisher most of the time is not like, as I hear you talk about it, is not really this creative entity that strives for new ideas and comes up with these great franchises. It kind of takes these things, takes these ideas from like these small developer studios, and then it's like, hey, this works really well. However, the thing is, a small development studio might be like a bunch of creative people. However, that doesn't mean that they know how to run it in a long-term business plan, and that's what they do. However, what happens is once it goes into this tradition, once it goes to like the publisher with like the tradition of bringing it out every year, and the like creative people move out, what you tell, then like it kind of deteriorates over time. But go ahead.
Right. That was awesome. All right, just gonna. That was awesome. So, to paraphrase, because I see that we have a little confusion in chat. The point is that not everything you do as a creative individual or group can be a golden goose, right? I've done stuff that I absolutely despise, right? I did one, Tenno Do You Even Build? Right? Articulate Atlas. Those are two shows that, you know, I did like a couple of times I hated, right? Xeno Codex, I grew to hate because of, you know, what's called community responses. But you came up with a brilliant original point. Like this is what publishers were supposed to be. They were supposed to be this font of knowledge, right? Something that they could go, hey, look, we have seen Maxis Studios do Sims-like games, and you know they've done this, they've used these techniques, and we're going to suggest to you that you use those similar techniques for your RTS. Yes, they're not the same genre, but we think that this one feature, this one principle, could be shared across both things. And that's, you know, that is what a publisher used to be. They used to be a font of knowledge that could provide revenue to make sure that your game could produce a golden goose, or maybe even a silver goose. It didn't have to be gold, so that not only you could benefit, but they could benefit as well. So it was like an investment. Yeah? That's what it used to be like. But over the years, people have found that, you know, our culture, our happenstance as a species, we love, like I do mean love, we love rinse and repeat, right? Simpsons episodes, right? You know, they were so formulaic, right? Family Guy, so bloody formulaic. Yeah, there is nothing truly crazy and original until shows like Rick and Morty, where they just blow it out of the park. Games like Warframe. Oh my god, like seriously, the parkour system, Parkour 2.0, has had such a profound impact on my life. I still try to parkour in any other game today. Right? You know, one of the reasons why I'm you know, I apologize, this is my opinion, I know a lot of people do not share it. I didn't get a great deal of joy out of Borderlands 2 because I found it to be pretty much a clone of Borderlands 1, right? There was no yes, there were some quality of life improvements, don't get me wrong, and they were great. But where was, the seamless loading? There wasn't it. You still had loading screens. Where was the, you know, radical choice of doing different things? Like there wasn't one. There wasn't any innovation. It was a carbon, well, not a carbon copy, but it was a copy of the previous game. Same with Call of Duty. That bloody franchise is just like rubber. Oh no, FIFA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is the pinnacle of rubber stamp copy of a game, and those franchises are what tell publishers it is all right to produce another can of baked beans, right? Because people will buy it. So I certainly say, good sirs and ladies, don't pre-order games. It just tells them that what they're doing is all right.
Well, I I want to put a little asterisk there because, and I want to start this with a question to you. When have you ever had a time in Warframe where you were playing Warframe, especially in the early years, where you were like, God, I love this game. I would love to do something else, but can I find anything that will satisfy me as much as Warframe right now does? Have you ever had that?
This is a really good question. To the same extent as Warframe, or to a similar level of satisfaction? Does that make sense?
The way that you want to interpret that. So the way that you're
So,
looking for it. Yeah.
so as a game as a service, World of Warcraft used to do that for me.
Mm-hmm.
Not anymore, right? They actually dumbed it down. They made it simpler, right? Boring, right? In terms of something that's fast and explosive and all catching and everything like that, near Automata. But that's not a game as a service. That ends, right? That stops, right? I had crazy amounts of fun with Borderlands 1, obviously before Warframe. But currently, like, if I'm not gorging on Warframe, I will often play other things like Diablo 3 just to stop having steak so much, to have a hamburger, to have something that really shines a light on how good Warframe is.
So I had, for like 2 years ago, I really enjoyed Warframe, and I just couldn't really go to other games because I was like, where do I find something that is just like Warframe? Because I want something that gives me the same level of enjoyment, and I didn't really want to I tried to invest a little bit in like a Destiny or another game, and it just wouldn't really work. And I think that is that is what I was talking about earlier with like the openness and sticking more to tradition. Like, there is something inherently good about sticking to tradition, because if you are with a formula that works for you, then if you find something that is that exact same thing, there is so little risk, and it will be good. As an example, like, Warframe is a free-to-play game, and me trying out other free-to-play games would be like going out and trying out something else, which wouldn't be like Warframe, would be a risk of my time. I could invest my time, like I could invest a couple of hours into it, and then find this is not what I want. I would lose that time. I would never get anything back for that, but that's a small cost. Now, a better example of that would be that 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, 2017, I saw Shy tweet on Twitter that she just got Persona 4 for the PS Vita, and she was like, this game is totally worth buying a Vita for. And I was like, I was just about to go on a vacation to Canada, so I was like, let me go buy that. Let me see that. Let me see what it's worth. So I bought a Vita and like the game like the day before I left. And on the plane, I started playing it, and I absolutely loved it. It's such a great game. Like, I've played it 4 to 6 times over. It's so good. However, I don't really get the enjoyment out of it anymore because now I know everything. I know everything about that game. And then Persona 5 came out, and I was like, do I want to get this? Because what I ended up really, really loving is the story of Persona 4. I was like, this story is great. I love it. I would love to have something like it. And then Persona 5 came out. I was like, do I want to buy this? I was like, I don't know whether the story will be just as good. I don't know whether I will like this just as much. And because I had to put down money for it, I ended up not going for it yet because I was like, I don't know whether I would like it as much. And aside from that, it was only on the PS4 and on the PS Vita, and I really loved it as like a carry-around game. So sticking to tradition, having like being able to stick to tradition is something that can also be very beneficial. If I really love FIFA, and I've been in that age, loving FIFA, loving Call of Duty, and if then a new game comes out, you know what you're in for, and you're like it's not a risk because you know what you're getting, and you know that I really loved like pressing the nuke in Modern Warfare 2, but I also love going to the Black Ops and fighting zombies or having the new perks. Then they started doing these weird jump things. I was like, yeah, I'm out. And it's like, well, sure, but that maybe I grew out the franchise. But it's like there is benefit in tradition, but I think that's like we're kind of moved off the but actually it's kind of like the tradition is kind of like the safe bet, and I think that the good thing about pre-orders is if there's a high return on your high risk, then that's a good thing. Then that's the thing. If you are in for a high risk, high return thing, and the return is good, and the return might be that you get the game for a lower price or you get something that other people can't get, then, and if you've deemed that worth the high risk, then you should pre-order. If you think that the risk of pre-ordering and that game being bad is worth the risk, then you should. But keep in mind that pre-ordering doesn't mean buying a well-established game with all the reviews and a guaranteed success, because pre-orders don't guarantee anything. That's what the pre-orders for. They're just a high-risk, high-return thing, and most of the time it will be bad, and sometimes it will be good. So, should you pre-order Cyberpunk 2077? It's up to you. And I think...
Damn, to be honest, to answer that, I know you're asking the community, and it's more rhetorical than anything. I honestly don't know, because we know that Cyberpunk 2077, it's being done by CD Projekt Red. They are their own studio. They are not some weird super publisher or any crap like that. They are, Reb adores them, so for anyone that is here that doesn't know who we're talking about Rebecca Ford from Digital Extremes. But yeah, she loves CD Projekt Red. They do produce amazingly high quality content. A part of me is concerned. Like, I love the appearance of Keanu Reeves. I genuinely do, right? But a part of me is concerned, right? Why? Why did they bring Keanu Reeves into it? How long is he in it for? Because that sort of stunt is like, did you ever play Oblivion?
I don't think so.
Right. So one of the Elder Scrolls games, pre-Skyrim, Oblivion, had Patrick Stewart in it for all of 2 minutes. Literally, he was at the very start of the game. He dies. That's it. Right. So I'm not calling CD Projekt Red out. I'm very likely to be buying Cyberpunk 2077. Because I love cyberpunk stuff. Some of my favorite animes is like Bubblegum Crisis Tokyo 2040. I love cyber. But the appearance of Keanu, even though amazing and jaw-dropping, does raise the question, is this just a stunt?
I think that comes back to one of our very first podcasts. Like, I did the first or the second where we talked about hyping, and like the overhyping. It's only overhyped if they're accurately describing the truth, and if they're making something bigger out of something that's way smaller, then then that's the developer, and you should always be critical of those things. I do also want to raise this one thing, because you said I would like to support, like the good thing that they have is that they're this small indie publisher, but it's like, well, ever heard of Kickstarters? There are also small indie publishers, and they're not that good. most of the time. So like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's basically, as I said, I think that like what could be good about pre-orders, I think that what could be good about pre-orders is that if you decide to invest without having any proof of whether it will be good, basically betting on a really high risk, you could get some high returns. That is what could be good about pre-orders. If you can get some pretty high returns, if it's good, then that's what you're buying it on. But it's a bet, and it's up to you whether you want to make it. Don't buy it because you don't have to buy it because you should be worried about not getting to play the game on release. That doesn't exist anymore. You can just get a digital thing, and otherwise there will be a physical copy in the store because people don't need physical copies anymore, so they're probably going to be in the store. So you don't need it. But
Yeah.
that's what I think. But that's what I think what could be good about pre-orders.
Cool.
Question time?
Right. Yeah, let's migrate on. So, as usual, I asked if anyone had any questions. So I see one here
Mm-hmm.
from Omra Hamed
Omar Ahmed.
too. Yeah. Okay. Do you find releasing a game in a broken state and fixing it in future patches is any way redeemable or acceptable? Entirely depends, because I want to say Bethesda are synonymous with releasing broken games. Fallout 76, anyone? They've done sweet FA to fix it. Look at Fallout 4, Skyrim, so many games that they release that are buggy as hell, but they rely on the community to actually fix. Then you've got, oh god, I think it's Hellblade, Sire's Vigil. I swear that's the name of the game. So I'm just gonna make sure I don't apparently have it installed on Steam, but I'm pretty sure. Yep, Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice. That's the name.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that game was completely indie developed, blah, 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 blah. It was released eventually. And Jim Sterling did a review on it. And he found a horrible bug in it. And he just completely shat on the game. They then saw his review, didn't know about the bug, fixed the bug, and pushed it out. They were under no obligation to fix it, but they did. Yeah? And it's when games evolved, like Red Alert, StarCraft, Quake 3, they would release frequent updates to make sure that the game was the best it could. These days, you just don't bloody do it anymore.
I think it entirely depends on the intent of the publisher. I think that when the Bethesda guy came out like last week or so on E3, where they were like, well, or there was this interview where they were like, well, you can't just ship this game being not complete because that's what these games do, and then you fix them. If that's the intent, then that's horrible. Like, no. That should never be the case. You should always try to make the best thing you possibly can. However, I think that it all comes down to, like, if you're going out there, which I feel kind of was the case with something like Anthem, or might have been with Fallout 76, where they were like, well, let's release this thing which is half finished, and depending on how well it goes, we'll add on to it. Then you're not shipping a full-on game. However, if you take a look at Warframe, when that came out, they tried to do their very best in making the best they could because this game was going to represent the survival of their studio. And I think that I add that onto there to like kind of add to like I add that the survival of their studio onto there because it's a little bit of like proof as to they weren't fucking around. They were just like, this is what we have and this is the best we can do. If the best you can do at that time is a broken game, which doesn't run well, but you're going to do your best to fix it, then sure. I mean, you ship a broken game, yeah, I'm right. I mean, if you're fixing it, and if your true intent is to make the best game possible, you can get away with it. I think that that's right. It's all about your intent. If you're out there and you're just like, well, let's just make this half-finished thing, and then let's see how it goes, and if people like it, then we'll improve it. Yeah, like, don't invest in that. If it's someone that's actually actively trying to improve it, and you'll notice when people are actually trying to improve things. So I think it's more about why it's broken, like what's the intent behind it. But yeah, overall, again, like, if a product like it's, again, it's their business, so like you should never feel responsible for someone else's business. If they decide to do bad business practices, then you don't have to keep them running. It's so up to you. Do you have another question, or do you have to respond?
Okay, so right. So another question, same person.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what do you think about time savers in single player games? So like XP boosters, beginner packs, things like that.
For money, like you can buy them.
Yeah. So you buy something and it's an XP booster and keeps you going.
For just single player games, particular, or
Yeah.
for, I mean, for single,
Well, that's what the question.
For single player games, alright. It's like, I mean, as long as it's not impacting your, like, let's say Warframe was a PvP game, and if I just dropped $100 on it, then I could like kill everyone. Yeah, that's shitty. But if it's just a single player game and you want to like speed up your experience, it's like, that's on to you. Like, you buy the game and it's all about you having fun with that game. And if you want, do whatever you want, have fun, and if that's like speeding things up and you want to pay for that, perfect.
Yeah.
How about you?
Cool. Well, yeah, I don't see a point in it, but to be fair, I don't think I've bought a game in forever that actually has that as a feature, as an option.
I think it's very scarce in single player games to like have that as a buying thing, because if it's a single player game,
I remember many Assassin's Creed games doing it. But yeah, it's like, why are you even offering this? I don't understand why so many single player or multiplayer games or whatever have to have all these bloody skin box techniques by leveling systems. Like, I'm playing a first person shooter. Why is there a bloody leveling system in this? Right? I can overlook Warframes because the game is just so bloody good. Call of Duty. Oh, I need a leveling system. Why? Who cares? I need talent trees. Why?
I haven't played Call of Duty in a long time. Yeah, recently I think I tried a new Call of Duty and it had like improve your character, and I was like, why the hell do I care? Customize your character in Call of Duty multiplayer. I was like, dude, I don't give a shit about my character. It's just a guy. Like, the only thing that I care about is create a class so that I can select my guns. I don't need levels on my guns. The most that I need is like skins, and maybe like adjust my profile picture. Make your fun little Naruto thing from the weird shapes that you get from your PlayStation 3 Call of Duty profile picture. But I don't need all that. However, I do think that it's like whatever works. It's like random adaptation. It's kind of like the evolution thing, which you also see in video games. Like, hey, they have bars. Let us try it, and if people like it, it will stick around. And if people don't like it, most likely we'll see it being phased out over time. There is a good argument to be made for having all progression bars, because people love progression bars, because seeing that you're doing something and putting effort in it and then getting like instant feedback in a progression bar is amazing. I remember I was so sad when I got my Warframe up to rank 30 for the first time and I couldn't go above and beyond that, because it's like, okay, well, I just killed these enemies, now I get some numbers, but they mean nothing. And we didn't have a focus system back then. And that like really fucks with, like, that's really important, because most people play games. Why do they play games? Games are basically tasks that you don't have to do, which you voluntarily take on. Why do you
Yeah.
like them so much? Is because you get the feedback, and you don't get that feedback
Yeah.
in the real world. So people love the feedback, and sometimes it
Yeah.
got a bit crazy. So yeah. Anyway,
Cool. I think we're done for now. I can't see any more questions unless I'm being horrifically blind, which is possible.
no, I
But,
think we're getting closer to 2 hours, so that's also a good place to stop. I wanted to address this. I don't think I've addressed it at the start of the stream or the podcast. Is that the show is called the FrameCast, which most of you might have assumed was the Warframe cast. Woo! No, it's not. It's about anything that's on the frame. So we could be talking about different games. We could be talking about movies. But don't worry, all you tenno out there, because next week we're going to be talking about Warframe and the game.
yeah. Anyway, cool. Right. Well, thank you very much for coming, listening, and whatever. If you have any suggestions for future topics, please leave them in the comments below in the YouTube videos. So you can find the full 2-hour version of this on youtube.com/postmalonegames.
Mm-hmm.
And you can find the highlights video, which should hopefully come out this Friday, on Xenogallion. No, youtube.com/Xenogallion. No one knows how to spell that, so don't worry about trying.
Yeah. Xenogallion.com/YouTube. That'd be interesting. All right, let's go.
I could do that if I wanted to.
Ooh, actually, you could. All right, let's see. What we're gonna raid? Who's live right now?
Yeah.
Didn't
All right.
Didn't we have Xania on like last week or so?
No, Bazania wasn't on last time.
Oh, we had Headshot.
Yeah, that was it. Maybe you should do DK.
Yeah, I assume.
I don't know what DK is doing. What is
Events,
DK doing?
Special events, E3.
He might be watching E3. Maybe he's commenting on E3.
Oh my god, we should make a stream commenting on E3.
No.
Yes.
That's like the weird streamception I did of you guys watching the clips of you guys watching the clips of you guys watching the clips of you guys doing something weird.
I so want to do a stream. Okay, I so want to do a stream of, you know how people are like doing streams where they watch dev streams, which is absolutely ridiculous because you can also just watch a dev stream by yourself. I want to do a stream with as many content creators as possible. If you're watching this, you're content creator and you're streaming, let me know. I want to do like on one dev stream, we just take one person that's reacting to a stream, and then another person gonna react to that person reacting to the dev stream, and then we're just gonna make that go on as far as possible, preferably to the point that you can't even see the dev stream anymore because it's so tiny. That would be top quality content in Warframe, and the Warframe directory would just be like redeemed for anything that's done wrong. But yeah.